Hola, amigos. Brad Evans here. It is week numero trece. My Spanish is correct. Yes, week 13. Fantasy playoffs coming up next week for the vast majority of players in the Yahoo universe, which means your anxiety is really high. You desperately need to get a W to try to sneak in and punch your ticket for the second season. I'm going to be here for the next 30 minutes or so answering your questions. Don't forget to Fantasy Football Live coming up, yahoosports.com, starting at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 8:30 a.m. Pacific. So go ahead and lock and load those questions on social media here. We're streaming on Facebook, Periscope, Twitch, and YouTube. And of course, I'm going to break down all the latest news and notes. I'm going to do that right now. Mitchell Trubisky is expected to return, according to Ian Rappaport, not this week, but next week, as the Bears have a mammoth matchup next Sunday night against the Los Angeles Rams. It's going to be Chase Daniel under center once again for the Monsters of the Midway today in a very winnable game against the New York Giants. Of course, we're getting a ton of questions about Spencer Ware. What to do with him in light of the Kareem Hunt news. With Hunt, no longer being employed by the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, a delicate situation, but we have to spin it forward for fantasy purposes. Where now in the captain's seat for the Chiefs and a very good running back, a guy that's averaged 2.73 yards after contact per attempt on the season. I've got him as a top 10 running back. In fact, RB8 this week. I have him even one spot ahead of Saquon Barkley. He's got a very difficult match against the Chicago Bears. That's how confident I am in Ware. And, of course, the matchup as well, as the Raiders have given up 5.19 yards per carry, the 8th most fantasy points to the running back position to boot. So Ware, I implore you, is nearly must-start material. The only running backs, and I'm pulling up my ranks as we speak, that I have currently ahead of him are Gurley, McCaffrey, Aaron Jones, Phillip Lindsay. I had Zeke and Kamara at 5-6, and James Conner at 7. That is it. That's it. And you could even make an argument that Ware could be better than James Conner. I think it's 100 combined yards and a touchdown. Again, we're printing money in the Yahoo DFS game, as Ware is only $11 in that format. But you need to play him this week. Yes, I have him ahead of Saquon. Yes, I have him ahead of David Johnson. Yes, I may be clinically insane. But Spencer Ware, based on the matchup, based on the high volume, this isn't going to be some RBBC. Ware is going to be the guy in this game. Probably going to get you at least 20 touches as well. So start him with the utmost confidence. And I will continue to pound that home on Fantasy Football Live. Again, coming up at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time on yahoosports.com. Some other news that's out there this morning. Marlon Mack is expected to play, so he is going to be good to go against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Difficult matchup. Remember last time he faced this team, he didn't do jack squat, under 40 combined yards, no touchdown for him in that particular game. I'm outside my RB2 ranks. I'm not particularly confident in his services. Some guys I have ahead of Marlon Mack. LeGarrette Blount, who always seems to trip and fall into the end zone for the Lions. He's going against the Rams, giving up right around 4.80 yards per carry, the running back position. Frank Gore with Kenyon Drake banged up. He should see a sizable workload against that Bills front, allowed the 9th most fantasy points to the running back position. Tariq Cohen, LaShawn McCoy, all these guys I have ahead of him. Another running back that's in the news is Josh Adams, a late add to the injury report with a hip setback that he suffered reportedly in practice on Saturday. There are a couple of reports from some local beat writers in Philadelphia that say they expect Adams to play, but you need to have a contingency plan in place in case he is unplugged on Monday night. So if Darren Sproles is available, a Wendell Smallwood is out there, Chris Thompson, have those guys on your bench if you're a Josh Adams owner so you can avoid the zero in the unfortunate event that he is deactivated. But indications are from, again, local beat writers that he expects to play, and if he suits up, should see a sizable workload. As Doug Peterson said, look, we want to continue to get him more touches. He had a 22-touch game last week, 85 yards and a touchdown. Very impressive kid. All indications are he's very bright in terms of picking up the playbook. Former Golden Domer, really racked up the yak yardage in college, and that's transferred beautifully to the NFL level is he is 2.95 in that category, RB10 an elusive rating according to Pro Football Focus. So he has posted some elite advanced analytics, and now it's starting to come, to the fold, to the front in terms of him delivering for fantasy. So just make sure you have a plan B in place if you're somebody that has to trust on the services of a Josh Adams. All right, let's see if I can pull up some of your questions here in the chat on this restream, and they're slowly coming in. So let me go ahead and answer a couple questions off my Twitter feed. You can follow me at Yahoo Noise. Here's a question right now about Josh Adams. Josh Adams or Kenyon Drake in a PPR format. Again, I would wait out Josh Adams there. I think the upside is too enormous. I have him at RB14. I'm moving down slightly due to the news, but again, a player that, assuming that he's active, and indications suggest he will be, you look at Washington giving up 4.33 yards per carry at the running back position. I think there's a really good shot for him to hit 80 yards and find the end zone. Matthew Brown, Josh Gordon, or Calvin Ridley. Difficult matchup, really, for both these guys. I'd probably go Gordon by just the slimmest of margins. You look at the matchup against Minnesota, we don't know if Xavier Rhodes is going to go. It's touch and go. It's 50-50 whether he's going to be available. I think it's going to be an uphill climb for Tom Brady and folks. I think Gordon, maybe gets just 70 yards, maybe a touchdown. I think there's just a little bit more upside knowing that he's going to see a higher volume than Calvin Ridley. Foster08 on Twitter says, LeGarrette Blount or Carlos Hyde. Close. I think Carlos Hyde will see the lion's share of the touches against the Indianapolis Colts. Colts rank inside the top 15 in most fantasy points allowed the running back position, though they've given up just 3.98 yards per carry. They've given up more points in the pass game, which would favor Yeldon. But in a goal-to-go situation, I'm going to anticipate that Hyde would be called upon to try to punch it in. Good shot there for 60 yards and a touchdown. If it's a standard format, I go Hyde. If it were a PPR format, I go TJ Yeldon. But this question, again, is Blount or Hyde. Slight edge there to Carlos Hyde. It's really close. Both those guys, I think, are carbon copies of one another this week. All right, we got a ton more questions coming in here. Joseph Dragish on Facebook. Ware or David Johnson in a PPR? Again, I got Spencer Ware higher. I think Spencer Ware, I'm imploring you to play the man. I read down the list what players have ranked ahead of him. It's only 7 guys, and 2 have already played in Zeke Elliott and Alvin Kamara. I mean, Spencer Ware is going to get you 100 yards and a touchdown. It's the Raiders. They're rancid. They're repugnant. They're repulsive. They're terrible. You can't get much better than that in a game in which the spread is Kansas City minus 15. So it should be a positive game script. I think you're going to see Ware left, right, up the middle in the pass game. He can do it all. It could be a 3-down running back in this league. He's proven it before. He will prove it again. Andy Reid loves him. Michelle Devereaux Bonifer. Whoa, that's a fancy name. Green or Humphreys in a PPR? Yeah, the other questions I've been getting are pertaining to A.J. Green. I am hesitant to trot him out there with a ton of confidence. And the reason being is this. It's Jeff Driscoll. This is a step down from Andy Dalton. Driscoll's a better athlete. He's a guy at 6'4", 235 pounds. He runs a 4.56 40-yard dash. But his downside is inaccuracy. Beyond 20 yards, it's all over the map. And you saw it last week. A very conservative game plan when he came in. Yeah, the game was already out of hand. But he was under 6 yards per attempt. He only completed right around 58% of his passes. That is to the detriment of A.J. Green. Give me Adam Humphries. He's been wide receiver 21 since week 8 in a game with shootout appeal. Remember the last time the Panthers and Buccaneers faced off, it was 70 combined points. So I definitely go with Adam Humphries there. Miguel on YouTube says, Mac, Curtis Samuel, or Josh Reynolds? I go Josh Reynolds. Simple reason why. Matchup. This is a matchup game, folks. And a lot of people say, well, you got to go with Marlon Mack. He's a running back. You're going to get some guaranteed volume there. But the matchup isn't friendly. Jacksonville has contained the run well this season. Top 10 in fewest fantasy points allowed to the running back position. Detroit, meanwhile, has been overly generous to the slot position. That's where Reynolds lines up, particularly Nevin Lawson, who is the slot DB for the Lions. He's given up a 115.4 passer rating to his assignments. Reynolds, who played 100% of the snaps, pre-bye and that shootout, that memorable shootout against Kansas City. I think there's a good shot for 70 yards and a TD. So again, I'm going to maximize the matchup and go with Josh Reynolds. Francisco Rico says Jones or Ware. Now, I have Aaron Jones at RB3 this week. I think both these guys, as I mentioned before, good chance to hit the century mark and splash 6 at least once. Arizona ranks top 5 most fantasy points a lot of the running back position. I'm going to go with Aaron Jones. Charles Millian, David Njoku, or Lamar Miller in a flex PPR. Definitely go with Lamar Miller. Look, I know he's a bit of a roller coaster ride, but it's going to be a roller coaster of love. Especially off that huge game last week. You look at Cleveland and what they have given up to the running back position this season. 7th most fantasy points, 4.75 yards per carry, 12 rushing touchdowns. To me, Lamar Miller, in this instance, guaranteed volume, the sexier option of the two. Additional questions coming in. Crush 1022 on Periscope. DJ Moore or Josh Reynolds in a PPR. Very close. Again, I like both these guys, but I'm going to go with DJ Moore. I'm going to see MJ Stewart primarily out of the slot. Devin Funchess expected to play, but not 100%. I would not be at all shocked if DJ Moore goes for 80 total yards because you get some action on the ground occasionally with him. Good shot to find the end zone as well. Slight advantage over Josh Reynolds, but I think he'll be satisfied with either one of those options. Marius says Josh Adams, Drake, or Burkhead. Burkhead, I think, is going to be involved in some form or fashion. Probably 8 to 10 touches, operating as not only the big back, but also pass-catching back, so kind of balances out who he's snacking off of, feeding off of, whether it's Sony Michel or James White, but difficult matchup against that Minnesota front spearheaded by Linval Joseph. I go with Josh Adams. I wait this sucker out. Again, all indications suggesting that Adams will play in that matchup on Monday, though it's not guaranteed, and Washington has given up 4.33 yards per carry. I said at the top of this broadcast, I'll say it again. I think Adams a really good shot at 80 yards and a score. Johnny Oaks, Gus the Bus or Dion Lewis? Give me Gus Edwards. I know he was battling a bit of a tender ankle, but is good to go today. 40 carries, 233 yards, a touchdown, 3.65 yards after contact per attempt. The last 2 weeks, Atlanta has allowed a very generous amount of fantasy points. The position, 4th most, 4.97 yards per carry as well. Good odds that Edwards goes for at least 85 yards and a touchdown, working in tandem on the ground with Lamar Jackson. A game with some sneaky shootout appeal. All right, Owen Warland on Periscope. Jackson or Ryan? For me, I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson. Look, you look at Atlanta. Yeah, you get Deion Jones back, who could operate as a spy, but Jackson is special. I think that the patrons that visit the Mercedes-Benz Stadium this week for Atlanta, they're going to watch the game and be like, when did Baltimore get Michael Vick? That's the kind of athlete that Lamar Jackson is. And this could be a classic vintage Vick line when he was with Atlanta. Something around 200, 215 passing yards, a passing touchdown. I think he runs between 50 and 80 yards on the ground, and I think he finds the end zone with his legs as well. I have Lamar Jackson as a firm top 10 quarterback this week. I've been beating that drum hard the last couple of weeks. He's delivered in back-to-back games. It can be ugly, can be unsightly at times, but you got to maximize a matchup. You got to maximize the duality that Lamar Jackson brings. I definitely take him over Kirk Cousins. Ruben Albert Gonzalez on Facebook, is Connolly going to have a big day? No, I wouldn't say big day. Could he have a serviceable day? Sure. Yeah, with Kareem Hunt out, you got Ware involved. With Sammy Watkins out, Connolly is inserted. The problem that you run into with the vertical options of the Kansas City Chiefs, let's say Tyreek Hill goes nuts early on this game, or maybe it's Spencer Ware, or maybe there's a pick 6 or 2 and the game gets out of hand. It's going to be more Spencer Ware in the second half and less of the passing game. So for me, that gives me a little bit of pause. Connolly could be a nice flex option. I don't necessarily view him as a wide receiver 3 in a 0 bye week. So that's kind of where I'm at on Chris Connolly. I wouldn't go crazy with the cheese whiz. I mean, Travis Kelce could go nuts. So that's the perspective there. I would walk on eggshells with him. Angelo Cabrera on YouTube. Rodgers or Wentz? Aaron Rodgers has been QB19 here since week 8. I'm going to go with Carson Wentz. You can throw on Washington. They rank inside the top 10 most fantasy points allowed to the quarterback position. Josh Norman and Quentin Dunbar combined giving up 100-plus passer rating to their assignments. I know Wentz has been disappointing in some premium matchups, but I think it's going to be a lot of Aaron Jones today and not so much Aaron Rodgers. I got Rodgers. I was on Quarterback Fearless Forecast this week. I'll tell you exactly what I forecasted for him. 253, 2 touchdowns, 11 rushing, and no turnovers. Wentz, I have it 288, 2, 1, and 9. So very close. But again, I'm going to give the slight advantage there to Carson Wentz. Jason Tuttle on Facebook. Cohen or Reynolds as my flex. Cohen's been under 59 combined yards in 3 straight, though he scored in 2 of those games. Again, I'm going to go with Josh Reynolds. I think it's going to be just a slight advantage, a little bit better than Cohen. I think both these guys splash 6 today. I just think Reynolds will best Cohen in overall yardage, and that's why I'm leaning that direction. Eric Martinez, Dion Lewis, or Sony Michel in a PPR. For me in a PPR, I'd probably go Dion Lewis. Sony Michel, you do have to account for Rex Burkhead. How many receptions is he really going to have with James White and Burkhead operating in that capacity? I would say maybe 1 or 2. It's not a great matchup on paper. You look at the Minnesota Vikings. They've swallowed running backs whole this season. So for me, I actually veer the other way. I go Dion Lewis, especially in a full-point PPR. Justin Updegrove, PPR Allen Robinson or Lockett. Give me Tyler Lockett, a guy that's been a king of consistency. I think he could certainly find the end zone, though. You always have to mitigate the yardage output for him. I don't trust Allen Robinson, even in what appears to be a premium matchup against the New York Giants. Robbie Hyde on YouTube. Let me ask this. Carlos Hyde or Kenyon Drake in a 9 PPR? 9 PPR. That's the operative phrase there. For me, that's Carlos Hyde. Drake is so wildly unpredictable. He's a Corey Davis of running backs. Really tough to put your finger on exactly what he's going to do. I think Hyde is going to be the big back. If Jacksonville gets within striking distance of the end zone, he is going to get the ball in the belly. I think it's 60 yards and a touchdown for him. I take him over Kenyon Drake. Christian Lopez, Spencer Ware or A.J. Green in a PPR? No question. This is Spencer Ware. No question. Undoubtedly, you play Ware. Again, top 10 running back, folks. I'm going to continue to hammer this home. Every other question's about what do I do with Ware? What do I do with Ware? What do I do with Ware? You're playing Spencer Ware, unless you have like a Phillip Lindsay, who I would play ahead of him, or a Todd Gurley, or an Aaron Jones. That's the kind of company he is in, knowing that he is a lead back, knowing he's got an exciting skill set. It may not be as exciting as Hunt's, but it's also a primo matchup. Play Spencer Ware. All right, more questions. Jay Shackelford, Connor or Lindsay in a half-point PPR. I have Lindsay slightly higher. One of my favorite prop bets of the week. Will Phillip Lindsay get at least 73 yards at minus 114? I think he smashes this, crushes it. You look at that front line of Cincinnati, the most fantasy points surrendered to the running back position this season. I think Royce Freeman could find the end zone. I think it could be 40 yards, 50 yards, and a touchdown for him. So he's got some certain flex appeal. So for me, I definitely go with Phillip Lindsay there, though it's close. Ant Cordero, Julian Edelman or David Johnson? This is a question. You're playing David Johnson. Another question. This one from Joshua Brewer on Facebook. Ware or McCoy? Why are you thinking about this? Why? It's Spencer Ware, okay? Trust me on this. Trust the matchup. Trust the player. Trust the situation. Spencer Ware is not going to be in an RBBC, folks. He is going to be the main man. Enough with this nonsense. Enough with this poppycock. You play Spencer Ware. Richard Pinkston. Am I playing Spencer Ware? Ha ha ha. Yes! Moving on. Brewski, Mack, Cook, or Lewis need to in PPR. I'm going to go with Cook and Lewis. Again, I've got issues there with Marlon Mack. Scott Piowski on Facebook, not to be confused with the great Scott Pianowski, who writes for us on our wonderful site and manages some of the social media stuff for us on the fantasy side. Josh Reynolds or Kirk in a PPR. Give me Josh Reynolds, please. And he goes, those are my 2 options for wide receiver 3 the rest of the year. Great. Then you just maximize the matchup week in and week out. This week it's Josh Reynolds again going against Nevin Lawson, giving up a 115+ pass rating to his assignments. Mason Notias on Facebook, DJ Moore or Jarvis Landry. What have you done for me lately, Jarvis Landry? A whole lot of nothing. I don't trust. I really don't trust the Cleveland offense as a whole today against Houston. I'm definitely going to go with DJ Moore in a game with a shootout written all over it against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Duhawk 006, Tate Gordon Boyd, PPR pick 1. I'm going to go Golden Tate. He has got to resurrect from the grave at some point, resurface. And what better way to do it than against Washington on Monday night? It's been slow to take for him in absorbing the new system, according to reports, but he's still being heavily targeted, and I could see a lot of vertical appeal in this game for Philadelphia, more so than Boyd, tied to Driscoll, and Gordon. Maybe matching up with Xavier Rhodes if he does indeed suit up, and even if he doesn't, Holton Hill has been no slouch in coverage for the Minnesota Vikings this season. Rudy John on Periscope, any Adams news in Philly? Again, to reset at the top of this broadcast, Josh Adams, according to local reports, will play for the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday night. That's all I got. There's no guarantee with any of this. So you got to have a backup plan just in case a Darren Sproles, a Wendell Smallwood, a Chris Thompson. There you go, Rudy. You're caught up to speed. Adam Simonizik. Sorry if I butchered that on Facebook. Ridley or Godwin. I'll probably go Chris Godwin. Again, I'm a matchup advocate. Carolina's allowed the 12th most fantasy points to wide receiver. Godwin. Yeah. 12th most fantasy points at wide receiver position. Remember, no D-Jacks either. Andy Barron shouting from the rafters. He's up there somewhere on the catwalk. Chris Godwin. So you got to listen to Redvern, and I agree with his esteemed advice. Ant, Garrett, Big Ben, or Cam. I don't think you can really lose any of these options, but you're going to, again, take advantage of the matchup. It's Tampa Bay. They're pretty much awful at everything defensively. They are Casper the Friendly Ghost. They're dinner in a movie. They are pushovers. They are slouches. You're playing Cam Newton. Thoughts on Shady today in a PPR, according to Mike C1121. I like Shady McCoy. I'm very much in the minority on this. Many fantasy writers would not support this sentiment, but I think McCoy goes over 100 combined yards and finds the end zone. He's still seeing a vigorous workload. Miami's given up the 5th most fantasy points at running back position. 7 running backs have gone over 100 combined yards against that front this season. Again, I'm going to take advantage of the matchup and the workload, put it together. Josh Allen, a bit of a dual threat. I guess you could fairly say that. I mean, he did his best Lamar Jackson impersonation last week. So, yeah, I think there's, a lot of upside for Shady McCoy this week. That's why I'm ranked top 20. Marius, Larry Fitzgerald, or Doug Baldwin, he's writing to us on YouTube. I would go in a standard league, probably Fitz. Baldwin just has been so allergic to the end zone for the most part this season. Fitz, despite the low yardage yields, is splashing 6 with regularity. And in garbage time, he could definitely clean up today against Green Bay. Brendan King, Marlon Mack, or Matt Breida. Matt Breida, please. I have come full circle around on Matt Breida. This week, I think he goes well over 100 yards. I mean, Seattle has just been torn to shreds on the ground over the last several weeks. 8 running backs have gone over 100 combined yards against him this season. Many of those performances coming here in recent outings. They've given up 4.74 yards per carry the position. Breida's back-to-back over 100 combined yards. He's done it 4 times this year. I think he goes for like $120 and a score in combined yardage. So definitely play Breida there. Dan Boschman, Dalvin Cook or Demaryius Thomas for the flex. I'll go with Dalvin Cook. Good shot of him finding the end zone. Modest yardage, maybe 70, 80 combined. I think you got to go with the volume workload there over Demaryius Thomas, who will not repeat the success of 2 touchdowns that he experienced last week. Richard Pinkston on Facebook, Aaron Jones all day, and play David Johnson as well. Thank you for that advice, Richard. I wasn't really sure what to do. But yes, I agree. You're definitely playing Aaron Jones. Hercules of Zeus. You got a lot of gods in there. Can someone answer Michelle or where? Where? Moving on. Patrick R. Welsh. Edelman or DJ Moore? DJ Moore for me, please. Chris Ram, Austin Eckler, or Dalvin Cook? I go Austin Eckler. It could be low yardage in terms of rushing yards for Eckler. I don't know if he hits 65, but I think he's going to be highly active as a receiver of the backfield. And here's a fun fact. He, Chubb, Hunt, and Barkley are the only running backs to rank inside the top 10 in elusive rating and yards after contact per attempt, according to Pro Football Focus. Eckler's really good. He really is. Doesn't get enough credit. Overshadowed, of course, by Melvin Gordon, who is also fantastic at football, as all of us know. And sadly, Tears do not have his services available to us this week. Let's see. Patrick on Facebook, Edelman or DJ Moore? DJ Moore for me. Let's see. Red MK4TT on Periscope. Do you trust David Johnson a must win? Yeah, I ranked him as a top 12 running back. He'll be very active in the pass game today against the Green Bay Packers. Packers giving up like right around 4.5 yards per carry as well, the running back position. He'll be fine. Paul Rahman, who sits? Mac, Deion Lewis, or the muscle hamster? I don't want anything to do with Doug Martin. Even though it's a premium matchup, that game's going to get out of hand in a hurry.
And again, they call me the muscle ferret.
Yes, it is actually the swole ferret. Andy Behrens joining in on the festivities.
Is a ferret a rodent?
They're rodents.
Okay.
Yeah, they're in the marmot family. Why do I know?
I don't know.
Certain mammalia, but I do.
But I always come to you with my mammal questions.
Yeah, I mean, look at me. I kind of look like a ferret.
Mammals and meteorology.
Mammals and meteorology. That's going to be my podcast name. Brad Evans, Mammals and Meteorology, and crappy fantasy advice. We got a lot of questions coming in here. Again, you're with me on Spencer Ware. I am imploring people to play him. I listed this like 5 running backs ahead of him who haven't played yet.
There is strange unanimity actually among the Yahoo analysts on Ware. Like we all have him either 9 or 10. There's
which means we've cursed him.
Yeah, that's probably right. But there's just not like it's such a good matchup. Oakland obviously allows almost 5 yards per carry on the season. I mean, they're a terrible defense that will give you whatever you want. Ware's a really good player. He's just an obvious start.
Very transparent, very permeable. You play Spencer Ware, okay, people? Like Peter Bashford. Peter, have you been watching this now almost 30 minutes?
Oh, man, that's a terrible, like
seriously,
terrible question. Where or Drake? I mean, they're not even
the same universe.
They're multiple tiers apart. Yeah.
You're living in the Andromeda Galaxy. We're here in the Milky Way. Come on, bro.
I understand a Ware or Eckler question. I understand a Ware or Chubb question. I understand, like, that's the neighborhood, though, right? Not Drake, not...
It really comes to, like, Ware or Connor. I think that's like that's a coin flip for me. I have Connor slightly higher.
Yep.
These are the things that we're telling you to do. If you like winning at fantasy football, if you think you want to make money and appease your significant other, then for the love of God, play Spencer Ware. This isn't hard.
We just learned a little something about you. I'm not sure that my wife knows exactly how much money is at stake in any given moment.
Well, I have secret
fantasy portfolio.
I have secret accounts. I've done well in those secret accounts.
All that mammal and meteorology money.
I'm telling you that podcast, we average roughly 7.5 downloads per week, so that's really bringing in the CPMs. So
it's pretty even. About 4 people check it out for meteorology, about 3 for
mammals,
yeah.
and then sometimes you get those rare Punxsutawney Phil moments where they overlap. It all comes together, and you're just like, holy bleep!
Probably do a very special 60-minute
seriously.
episode that week.
I sit down with a one-on-one, in-depth interview with Punxsutawney Phil every year, and we get 9 listens.
Now that thing's not a rodent; it's just a mammal, right? It's just a guy in a suit, right?
I could make so many inappropriate jokes about Punxsutawney Phil, but
I didn't realize you had appropriate jokes.
Well, that's true. A lot of salacious material tied to groundhog.
I'm sorry I took this off the rails.
These things happen. These are conversations that Andy Behrens and I have at the bar. We just don't know where it's going to meander and drift off to. Let's get back to fantasy football. James Deverinci on Facebook, Aaron Rodgers and Matt Ryan.
Aaron Rodgers.
I'm going Matt Ryan. I just don't trust Aaron Rodgers.
We don't have great matchups in either case here.
Would you pick up a Colt McCoy?
No.
I just threw that out there. Stab in the dark.
Like it's a discussion if we're talking about Baker Mayfield, if we're talking about Jameis, if we're talking about I don't know, Lamar Jackson. I might start Lamar Jackson over both of them this week if it really came.
I would definitely take Lamar Jackson over both those options. No question about it.
Really difficult matchups.
But I would go with Matt Ryan. He's going to go Aaron Rodgers, so we're helping nobody. Jesse Goldman, is Jimmy Graham going to do anything or play Burton? Is Burton going to do anything?
I mean, I would prefer the guy with 2 functional hands, I guess. Not that.
Well, it's not like he was really using them. Like Thanksgiving Day was one of the worst performances I've seen.
That was really, really bad. But as far as we know, he's not actually broken. Like Jimmy Graham is playing through a broken thumb, and he gets all kinds of toughness, credibility points for that. But on top of the fact that it's not a friendly matchup against Arizona, I don't think they're going to need him. Like Aaron Jones is the one guy that I'm enthusiastic about in that game. I think you have easy cover for sitting Jimmy Graham. I think he can be dropped, actually.
Yeah, I actually cut Jimmy Graham for Matt Lacoste this week in a couple of leagues. I'm not kidding you. I actually pulled the trigger on that. Let's see. Zach Bridwell on YouTube. I need a PPR. AJ Green, Galladay, Mixon, and David Johnson. I apparently needs just one. Green, Galladay, Mixon, or DJ.
I'm going to go David Johnson from that group. I think he's a top 12 running back this week.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Oh, here's a fun one. Rex Dunaway, Josh Doxson, or Chris Godwin. I heard you shouting. I said you're in the rafters. You're walking the catwalk in Studio A here at Yahoo campus. You're going Godwin.
Yeah,
still,
I'm
right?
going Godwin.
I'm going Doxson. I wrote about Doxson in my Fantasy Flames column this week. I think he has a great Week 13. I guess there's one bit of good news for Philadelphia secondary. Sidney Jones is going to play, but it's him and Rasul Douglas. Yeah. They both are bad.
Yeah.
And a bunch of UDFAs. So I think Doxson off a 10-target game, I think he's got a great shot, 60, 70 yards and a touchdown. So he's going Godwin. I'm going Doxson. No, they're both very close. Eckler and Ware, somebody is answering a question for us. Thank you for the Ware recommendation. You earn a sticker, scratch and sniff, root beer. Root beer, always root beer. Now here's actually a good Ware question.
Pizza, scratch and sniff, it's the worst.
Oh, nah.
It smells like vomit.
Really? It smells like vomit?
Sorry to derail this again. But
Well, it's kind of like...
it's a notably bad scratch and sniff scent.
It's like the Jelly Belly's got... they've got that bean game you can play with the disgusting flavors.
Yeah.
I've done that with my children. If your children ask you to do... Just don't do it. Just don't do it. I think I got one that was vomit flavored and I nearly yacked.
It's like they say Brett Evans will put anything in his mouth once.
This is true. Yeah. My college days.
Really
now we've really gone off the rails. We're sponsored by 5 Hour Energy. Max Schulman Hutter, Deion Lewis, or James White in a PPR? What do you make of Rex Burkhead? What's he going to do today?
This question. I've buried Rex Burkhead in the ranks because I don't know exactly what this is.
I think it's 8 to 10 touches, but it's going to come at the expense of both.
I will tell you now that everybody is basically healthy for New England, James White has kind of gone back to what he's always been, right? He's not a high volume player anymore. We can't reasonably expect 15 touches for him. He's still tied to a very good offense. He's still James White, and he'll still have those days, but he's not the guy who's a good bet to find the end zone in any given week. That said, the other guy in this question is Deion Lewis, and I just don't want anything to do with that offense. Like, I think Corey Davis is maybe the one bankable piece of the Titans offense.
But it's the Jets.
Lewis is not.
It's the Jets.
Neither Lewis or Henry has been anything to write home about. Yeah, it's the Jets. That's kind of fun. I'd still play White here.
I go James White too. I'm not disagreeing. All right, let's go rapid fire. We'll get 3 more in, then we gotta get on set because Fantasy Football Live is coming up at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do a show.
They apparently have to spray us down with makeup. We don't wear makeup. We don't. We're just naturally beautiful.
Well, I spray tan daily, obviously.
So. Oh, spray tan. All right, Chubb or Sanders? PPR from Kevin.
Ooh, that's a fun one. I'm going to go Nick Chubb, but I think Emmanuel Sanders is a great start.
I go Emmanuel Sanders. Dan Boschman, DT or Sterling Shepard?
DT.
I go DT. And last but not least on Periscope, Good Manta 2, Gus Edwards or Nick Chubb?
Oh, Nick Chubb.
Gus Edwards for me.
No, it's the wrong answer, people. It's
for me. I'm not on the Nick Chubb bandwagon this week. All right, that is a wrap on this edition of the Fantasy Q&A. Man, we had like thousands of entries across the board. Again, Fantasy Football Live coming up 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, yahoosports.com. Follow Andy Behrens at Andy Behrens on Twitter, myself at Yahoo Noise. Tank Williams will be coming to us live from a town he knows really well, Nashville, because he played for the Titans. You don't want to miss that. See you soon. Tighten up!